Hey everyone, it's John. It's November 5th, 2020, 2 days after the 2020 presidential and congressional and federal elections, even in local elections here in the United States of America. It's a sensitive and kind of hair-raising time right now as we are still waiting for the results from Arizona, the final results from Arizona, from Nevada, from Pennsylvania, from Georgia, from North Carolina. Um, we've just been through a really tumultuous uh, election, and the country is deeply polarized. Um, we're seeing people showing up at the various county offices where they're tallying votes, and we're seeing people, protesting. Nerves are on edge, and people are divided. Families are divided. Our country is divided, and it's a really intense time. And I just wanted. I showed up this morning to get to work, and I just had an impression, a feeling, an idea that I just wanted to take just a couple moments and share an intention. This isn't meant to be anything super serious. It's just literally just what I'm feeling right now, what I want to share. Um, and that's this. It's that as I think about where the United States of America has gone in the past 4 to 8 to 12 to 16 years, there are a couple things that are troublesome to me that make me sad. Well, there are a lot of things that are troublesome to me and make me sad. And there are a lot of things that are troublesome to me and make me happy. But the things that are troublesome to me are how divisive the rhetoric and the communication has been in the United States, in the United States political system for the past several years or more, past several election cycles, and how divided our country has become. And even dividing parents from children, siblings from each other, friends. I hate it. And so the rhetoric is too divisive, and the result of that is polarization. We have a country that's polarized in a way that I've never seen. And I'm 51. So, and I've talked to my parents about this, and they have not seen as much polarization in their lifetimes. And, different, obviously Vietnam War was a big deal. World War II is a big deal. Great Depression. Like, we've had huge things in our past 150 years. So who knows? I'm not an expert on history, but as I reflect upon the divisive rhetoric and the polarization, I am caused, or I'm kind of impelled to reflect on my own life and my own role in divisive rhetoric and polarizing rhetoric. And I feel like my intention for today, and hopefully for the next month or quarter or half year or full year, maybe even for the rest of my life, I can't make that commitment yet, but here's my intention. As I think about this situation politically, I also think about the role that I play in Mormonism. And I feel like I've gone up and down in this regard, honestly, because when I started, I was a active member. I wanted to help the church succeed. I but I also wanted to get the church and Mormonism more broadly to be more willing to talk openly about hard things, about difficult things. So it was bound to be combative at some point, I think. And I tried for many, many years to be moderate, to entertain lots of sides, to be as non-divisive and as non-polarizing as I could. But if I'm honest, since my excommunication, and frankly, since the November 5th policy, which ironically we're now up on the 5-year anniversary of the very polarizing LDS Church LGBT exclusion policy that was released 5 years ago today. That and my excommunication and the church's ramping up of excommunicating others, and I don't want to make excuses, but all of that I am pretty sure led me to become more, and just as I was more and more sensing the pain of couples who were being split apart because of the church, families that were being split apart from the church, LGBTQ individuals that were being hurt by the church, people of color, women, children, youth, as I was experiencing all the pain from all the people I interact with in terms of what they were experiencing at the hands of the church and the culture, I got more and more angry. I got more and more, my rhetoric got more and more polarizing. And I think I became a more divisive and a polarizing force in Mormonism. And I felt justified in that because I felt like I was on the right side. And what I mean by the right side is I felt like I was on the side of people getting hurt. So I felt justified in being angry and in raising my voice, thinking that I'm defending the people who can't defend themselves and fighting for people who can't fight for themselves and blah, blah, blah. But as I, and let's be frank, it's been an amazing 6 years. If I look at our accomplishments, my accomplishments, our accomplishments with Mormon Stories, with the Open Stories Foundation, I'm super thrilled with what we've done and how far we've come. And honestly, I'm super, super thrilled by the changes the LDS Church has made, particularly, forgive me for saying this, for those of you who are mad at the church right now or don't like the guy, but particularly Russell M. Nelson, the changes that have been made in the church since he's been in office, it seems like there's been a real ramp down in excommunications, a real ramp down in excommunication for apostasy. They still happen, but they seem less common. A ramp down in excommunications of LGBTQ people. Again, they still happen, but they're less common. It seems like the church is getting better on interviews. Not great, but better. And there's still a long way to go on many, 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 many fronts. But here's what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is that I want to express an intention that I've expressed before, and I've failed before. I've expressed this. It's almost going to be humorous to people that if there's anybody out there who follows me and doesn't like me, and I'm sure there are some, you've seen me express something like this before, which is that I want to be less divisive. I want to be less polarizing. I want to be more unifying. But to be honest, I've failed time and time again. So here I am again, acknowledging my past failures, acknowledging my past weaknesses, acknowledging my years of trying to be balanced, trying to do good, but knowing that at times I'm part of the problem within my Mormon community and sometimes within my Utah community, of being polarizing, of using rhetoric that inflames and agitates, and of dividing people instead of uniting them. And I also think I've done unifying work and I've done good work. So this isn't me flagellating myself and saying that I'm a horrible person and throwing in the garbage the work that I've done. But this is me today wanting to share an intention. And the intention is twofold. I want to express an intention going forward to be moderate and unifying in my discourse and in my relationships. And let me qualify that. I have values that probably would be perceived as strong or even strident in the modern world. I'm particularly sensitive to issues of gender, of sex, of race, of sexual preference, of transparency, of openness, of honesty, of matters of undue influence, of organizational abuse and control. And those values are literally stronger than ever. So my social justice values are not moderate. My values are as emphatic and as strident as they've ever been. So I don't want this to be taken as an intention to lighten up on the fact that we need to treat our people of color better in the United States. We need to treat our women better in the United States and in the world. We need to treat LGBTQ people better, trans people better in the world. That religious organizations need to stop harming people and stop using undue influence. My values there, I'm as solid and as strong or stronger than I've ever been, period. But what I want to express an intention for today is to be more moderate and unifying in my discourse and in my relationships. And here's what I mean. As I've thought about the political discourse, I've watched CNN, I've watched Fox News, I've watched MSNBC, I listened to the New York Times Daily, NPR, PBS. I listen to the gamut and I read from the gamut of sources. What I'm super grateful for, and some are going to take this as offensive, but what I'm super grateful for are news sources that are moderate in their discourse. As polarizing and as outrageous as this election cycle has been, there are news sources that are better than others in terms of, interviewing both sides, getting experts on both sides, and having reporters or moderators who seek to, they may have biases. Everyone's got biases, but they seek to always interview both sides, always respectfully engage both sides, to be evidence-based, and to do their best to dispassionately engage in public discourse that seeks to obtain truth and health and well-being based on evidence, based on healthy, respectful discourse. For me, PBS, NPR are kind of, for me, the gold standard. Now, I know there's going to be people that hate those news outlets on both sides. When I watch, Meet the Press on Sunday mornings, when I watch This Week, ABC on Sunday mornings, and frankly, when I listen to the New York Times, the Daily, I hear reporters that are trying to be fact-based, trying to be evidence-based, trying to be fair, trying to engage both sides, and trying to move us forward in a positive direction, not relying on rhetoric and bombast. When I start going out from there and I go to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, that's where I start to feel like the polarizing, where the heated rhetoric starts to ramp up and the polarizing rhetoric uh, starts to happen. And so I'm inspired by that. Um, so as I move forward, I am just expressing an intention today for myself, but I want to be held accountable by my friends, by the people that care about me, by the people who care about what I do. I want to follow that model of being driven by values strongly, but in my public discourse and in my public rhetoric, to be as fair and as balanced and as fact-based, as evidence-based, and as non-bombastic as possible. Again, I failed a million times at this. I want to recommit. So the second thing is in relationships. So yes, I voted for Biden. That's no surprise to anyone. I wanted a different candidate in my party, but I voted for Biden in the generals. And honestly, it was largely not due to policy. It was due to my feeling that my belief, my values, frankly, I should say, that the rhetoric was too divisive, and our nation is becoming too polarizing. And as imperfect as Joe Biden is, as we all are, I simply said, who's going to be less divisive? Who's going to use less bombastic rhetoric? Who has a better chance of doing a better job at uniting us than dividing us? There's good policy reasons to vote on both sides. But so I voted for Biden. But why am I talking about all this? Not because I'm being political. I'm just saying this, that what I've noticed, even though I voted for Biden, I have dear friends, dear family members, close family members who voted for Trump. And fuck that. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to let political differences get in the way of my relationship with my parents. I'm not going to let that happen. And I'm not going to let political differences get in between me and my sister or my brother-in-law or my other in-laws. I'm not going to let it happen. And I have dear friends, colleagues who voted for Trump. And I'm not going to let politics get in the way of those relationships. If I do that, the bad people win. The bad people win. If I'm polarizing and if I'm polarized from the people that I love, even if I think their votes are hurting people, even if I think their beliefs or policies are hurting people, I'm not going to let political differences, and I don't want to have religious differences, get in between the people that I love to the extent that I can control it. So that's my intention for today, hopefully for the week, hopefully for the month, hopefully for the half year, hopefully for the year. And man, if I can try and remember this little commitment I'm making now, hopefully for the rest of the time I'm in the public arena. And I don't know if that will be a year or 20 years. I don't know. But that's my intention. And call me on it. If you think I'm being bombastic, if I'm using excessive hyperbole, if I'm using too much rhetoric, I want you to let me know. If I'm being loosey-goosey with evidence and facts in a way that's harmful, I'm never going to be perfect in that regard. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scholar, but I'm going to do my best. But I don't want to use polarizing rhetoric in the Mormon sphere or in the political sphere. I don't want to have politics divide me from the people that I care about. I don't want to have religion divide me from the people that I care about to the extent that I can control it. And Um, I want I want to be a part of a solution that unifies our our Mormon people to the extent that we can, and that unifies our country and even our world to the extent that I can. I know this is hippie, loosey-goosey, cheesy, but I'm declaring a public intention today to come down on that side. And I call on anyone who's within the sound of my voice or who's able to watch this to search your hearts and see if you want to be a part of this intention too. And if you do, I want to be a part of your community. If you disagree with me, that's okay too. And I want to just make one asterisk on this. There's still going to be a place for passion, for anger, for sadness. Emotions are essential. So I'm not saying that I won't ever get angry or sad or upset, but I want to, if I get angry or sad or upset, I want to express it in a responsible way. And I want my actions to do the best they can to unify and not divide. And I apologize for all the ways that I've used divisive rhetoric, all the people that I've insulted, all the people that I've hurt, all the ways that I've divided. I apologize publicly. And I promise to try and do better from November 5th, 2020 going forward. And I don't know what's going to happen with this election. You know, it looks like Arizona and Nevada and Pennsylvania, and Georgia and North Carolina are going to be weighing in soon. I'm probably forgetting a state, but I don't know how the election is going to end up. I don't know what the church is going to do tomorrow. I don't know if there's going to be more November 5th policies in the future, but this is my intention. And thanks for, if any of you stuck around for this, thanks for listening. And I'm just going to look at the comments really quick because I've been ignoring them. And Michelle wrote, Michelle wrote, this is a funny comment that I have to share. Michelle wrote, "You are my adult Mr. Rogers." And you know what? I freaking love Mr. Rogers. And he's a hero of mine. And I love it that I'm wearing kind of a sweater today. I need to wear more sweaters because sweaters remind me of Mr. Rogers. And I think Mr. Rogers is a modern legend and a modern hero. So thank you, Michelle. I'll just share a couple comments just because I appreciate people reaching out. Tracy writes, "Love you, John. Thanks for what you do." Thanks, Tracy. Ryan writes, "Great comments, John. The fact that this election is razor thin should give both opposing sides some pause and reaching more across the table." I agree, Ryan. Vicky writes, "Not hippie, loosey-goosey, Dr. DeLynn, as the Savior instructed, if you are not alone, if ye are not one, you are not mine. I believe you'll find credible and lasting peace." Thank you, Vicky. Jay says, "Thank you for this, Doctor." Robert Wells says, "I've always believed religion and politics should not mix." Thank you. Michelle writes, "Now elections are over. I'm transferring my donations to Mormon Stories." Thanks, Michelle. That's not why I did this, but I'm grateful. 77 Bobism says, "Foolish." And I say, thanks for sharing your opinion. I'm practicing. 132.5 TEA says, "My sister is still in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Seems like the only thing that matters is the watchtower, and she is so hard to reason with." Yeah, and it's hard. All I can say is I know that rhetoric and bombast and polarizing language won't help. I think trying to not change people is the best path forward. Because you create the backfire effect if you try and change anyone. 1325 TEA. The best you can do is become wise, build emotional intimacy with your family members, live the best life you can, and have influence wherever you are. So Claudia says, I want to be part of this intention. So what do I do about my brother who insists on bringing up politics when I've asked him not to bring it up? He can't seem to talk about anything else but Trump and how awful the Dems are. Claudia, thanks for asking that question. I don't want to pretend to be any expert here, but I will just share my point of view on that. Basically, boundaries. Boundaries basically means that you put up a boundary for the people you love. And Mormons are particularly awful at this. And frankly, I don't know if that's true. Here I'm practicing again. People struggle with boundaries. And there are certain cultures, and there are probably a lot of cultures that struggle with boundaries. And the more controlling a culture is, the more of a problem there is with boundaries. Because controlling people, abusive people, controlling and abusive organizations, or even super conservative organizations, don't want boundaries because they want to control you. And if you put up boundaries, they can't control you. So what happens is when we're all raised in these types of cultures, we learn to not have boundaries. The boundaries mean I hate you, go away. The boundaries are bad because our organization is teaching us that. But the truth is boundaries, and I learned this from Brene Brown, boundaries can mean I love you. Boundaries can mean I want to keep you in my life. But if you keep going back, violating this boundary, we're not going to be as close. And I want to be close with you. So my answer to you, Claudia, with your question about your brother who keeps bringing up politics is you say this. You say, brother, I want you to know something. Look at my eyes. Sit down. Look at my eyes. I love you. I want to have a close relationship with you. I care about you. But we can't have a close relationship if we keep talking about politics, because it just makes us both sad and upset. Nobody's benefiting. So I'm going to do something that sounds really hard, that sounds awkward, and that may even feel like I'm saying I don't love you. And the boundary is when we're together, I don't want to talk about politics. I will talk about sports. I'll talk about the weather. I'll talk about religion. Whatever we can talk about that unifies us, our kids, health, diet, exercise, movies, entertainment. I'll talk about all sorts of things. But I'm putting up a boundary that I don't want to talk politics with you. I don't want you to bring politics up when I'm around. But it's not because I don't love you. It's because I love you. And if you'll do that, I won't bring it up either. And by the way, what boundaries do you want for me, brother? What things do you want me to not bring up that are upsetting to you? And I'll model the behavior I'm asking you to exhibit, which is I will not violate the boundaries you set for me. And if we can both do this, we're going to have a great relationship. And we're going to really get closer and more intimate, more emotionally connected. If you can't do this, then it's going to drive me away, where I'm going to not want to be with you as much. I'm going to start texting you less, calling you less, spending less time with you over time. And I don't want that. And that's going to make me sad. So I'm asking you to respect my boundary. I'll respect your boundary. But if we can respect each other's boundaries, I think we're going to have a great relationship. So that's my commitment to you. And that's what I'm asking of you. And it's going to be up to you whether you want to do that or not. If you find in a month or 6 months or a year that we've separated, I want you to remember now, I said it, that it will be because you couldn't respect this boundary, this kind, loving boundary that I put up because I love you. But hopefully that won't happen. So Claudia, that's my recommendation of what to do with your brother. And if any of you are having challenges with family members over religion, over politics, whatever, I recommend boundaries. I think it's really, really useful. All right. Claudia responded and said, that's a great way to look at it. Thank you. Love, you are awesome. Thank you. Michael writes, thank you, John, for caring about relationships and truth. Thank you, Michael. This is my intention going forward. I can't say I've always kept the things that I'm saying today, but this is my intention. Dallin writes, this reminds us of the primary song, Kindness Begins With Me. I love that. And I think there's a difference between kindness and being docile or weak. You can be strong and you can be effective without being weak. And what I think MSNBC and CNN and Fox News are trying to make the argument is you can't be effective without passion, without rhetoric, without anger and bombast. And I want to challenge that. I don't want to live in that world. So maybe that's our world, but that's not the world I want to live in. That's not the tribe that I want to hang with. So I'm just going to go with faith here that moderation in rhetoric and in relationships will win the day where it matters for me and for people that I care about and love. So that's what I'm going for. And it may be an act of faith. It may be that Fox News and CNN and MSNBC win the day, but I'll go down swinging against that. I'm done with that. Polly writes, thank you, John, for sharing your heart. You've been a big help to me in my journey. I've had similar thoughts. I don't want differences of belief, political or religious, to divide me and the ones I love. It's not easy on issues that hurt or affect people, but doing the best I can to unite, not divide. Thank you, Polly. I'll join with you. Preston says, hey, John, I'm sorry I missed your League of Legends games yesterday. I can't tell you how much it means to us Exmo gamers. That was fun yesterday. Let's do it again. I'm not opposed to playing a little more League with my ex-Mormon buddies. All right. So that's it. About 30 minutes, a little over 32 minutes. That was my intention for the day. Thanks to anyone who joined in. If you appreciated this, feel free to share it. If not, no problem. Thanks for joining. Please hold me to this. And by the way, I'm going to screw up. But I'm getting back on the horse and we'll see where it leads. Love you guys. God bless. Goddesses bless. Atheists bless. Secularism bless. America. God/atheist/secularism bless the Mormon people, ex-Mormons, liberal Mormons, progressive Mormons, post-Mormons, active Mormons, true believing Mormons, apologetic Mormons. Bless them all. Bless you all. Bless the world. And let's see what we can do together. Anyone who wants to join me on this. And yeah, 77 Bobism says, I'm holding you to this. Please do. And I'm going to get facts wrong sometimes. History's messy. I'm going to get passionate sometimes. But what I'm trying to commit to is constructive, balanced speech and relationships. I will ban on YouTube, on Facebook, I will unfriend and ban polarizing, mean-spirited people. So please don't misunderstand me. And I'm still going to be fighting harder than ever for the causes that I care about. But yeah, hold me to my rhetoric and to the extent to which I'm acting in ways that divide people versus unite people. All right. I welcome that 77 Bobism, whoever that is. All right. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys again soon on Facebook, on YouTube, and wherever else you hear or follow me and what I do. Take care, everybody.